Hello and welcome to this Yin practice for the kidney and urinary bladder meridian line. So for this practice today, all you will need is either a bolster or a few pillows. And then to begin with, we're going to start seated. So if you find it uncomfortable to sit straight down onto the ground, you might like to grab either a blanket or a towel and fold that up, so that you can sit on the edge of that blanket or towel, just to give you a little more space through the hips and the lower back. A bolster will be too high to sit onto, so you might want to grab your towel or blanket to help you sit comfortable on the earth. So go ahead and grab anything that you need and find a comfortable seat. And then once you've found your seat, just bring your legs out long and just leave a little space between the legs. You can walk the legs out a little bit, find a little movement through the legs. Maybe a little wriggle through the toes or roll through the ankles one way and then the other. Then you're going to bring the hands together and just gently rub the palms back and forth a few times. And then once you start to feel a little warmth, a little energy starting to build between the hands, I'm just going to take the hands and place the hands onto the back, just underneath the ribs where the kidneys reside. I'm just going to let that warmth, that energy seep into your body. You might like to close down the eyes here. Taking a big breath in. Big breath out. Taking a big breath in, breathing into the hands, into this back line of the body. Big breath out, let it all soften and release. One more time, big breath into the back of the body, into the hands. Big breath out. And I'm just going to softly rub the hands up and down on this spot, or you might like to draw little circles depending on how that feels. So I'm going to take another 1 or 2 breaths here as we gently massage this space. And then with the hands, we're going to bring the hands down to the outside of the hips, the outside of the legs as we trace the length of the body. I'm going to you can bend the knees as much as you need to trace the outside of the foot, coming to the big toe and then tracing the inside of the legs. Bring the hands back up to your kidneys. Take a big breath in. Big breath out. And then as you take your next breath in, trace the hands along the outside of your body. And as you breathe out, bring the hands, trace the inside of your body, bring the hands back to the back. Take a full breath in and out. Then breathing in to trace the hands at the outside of the body. Breathing out to trace the hands along the inside. Hands come back to the back of the kidneys. Take a full breath in. Full breath out. And then we'll move through 3 more rounds, but just moving with your own breath, your own rhythm. So whenever you're ready, moving through your next round, you can welcome to keep the eyes open or the eyes closed. If it feels a little out of reach to have the legs long, you can always bring soles of the feet not quite together, a little bit of space, so you can move the hands through. So that's another option that might give you a little more space. Moving through this practice to bring energy and sensation and love to the energy line for the kidney meridian, the urinary bladder meridian, through the lower body, and bringing that back to the kidneys. Moving through and finishing your last round. Coming back to the hands on the lower back, taking one final breath in, one final breath out. And you can go ahead and softly release your hands. Come back to a seated position. Just to take a few moments here to tune into sensation, to notice what is present. Another breath or two here. And then softly open the eyes back up if they're closed. We'll make our way from a seat over to a kneeling position. So just coming off any support that you're using. And we're going to come into shape known as a toe tuck or a toe squat. So you can do this just straight down onto the earth without any props. Or if this is a shape where you find there is a lot of sensation through the feet, you're welcome to grab your bolster or your pillows. So there's a couple of ways you can come into this. You can either just come onto the hands and tuck the toes underneath. That's one way. Or if you feel like you would like a little more space to come into the shape, you can come to a standing position, feet hip width distance apart or a little wider. And then bend through the knees. Bring the hands to your support or to the earth. And then keeping the heels lifted, bring the knees either down onto your support or to the earth. So if you find there is a lot of sensation through the soles of the feet or through the toes, keep your weight forward and keep the hands onto your prop or to the ground in front of you. Or if you feel like it's a little more accessible, you can go ahead and shift the weight back a little bit and bring the hands onto the thighs. That will allow the sensation to grow a little stronger. So find somewhere that works for you. Knees can be onto your cushion or onto the floor directly. Find somewhere where there may be sensation, but you can still stay without holding the breath or without clenching all of your muscles to stay there. And then use your breath here. Use your breath to breathe deeply in. Use your breath to breathe deeply out. And we're working with the meridian line, so the energy line that runs through the sole of the feet or the sole of the foot. So this is a great shape to open through that space. We'll take another 5 to 10 breaths here. And if you find the mind wanders, soften the eyes down and then come back to your breath. Anchor into the breath. Breathing deeply in. Breathing deeply out. A final breath in, a final breath out. And if you have the hands onto the thighs, just bringing the hands back down onto the earth or down onto your cushion. And then softly start to shift the weight forward so you can release the toes. If you're onto a support, just bring your knees back down onto the ground. Keep the toes and the feet lifted, and then just softly tap one foot down to the ground at a time. And then maybe a little wriggle through the toes, a little roll through the ankles. And then when you feel like you have taken enough movement through the feet, just bring yourself back to a kneeling position. You can either kneel just here, or if it feels nice to shift the weight back onto the feet, you're welcome to do that to counteract the toe tuck. And we'll just take a few moments here. A few moments to notice sensation, to feel what is present. Taking another 3 rounds of breath here. Bringing yourself back to center, opening the eyes up. And transitioning to our next shape, which will be child's pose. So you can again use props or no props for this next shape. Coming back to all fours. If you would like to use a bolster or your pillows, just popping them lengthways in front of you so you can use those there. Coming to all fours, we're going to take the knees a little wider than the hips, toes touching, heels apart, and then sink the buttocks back. It's okay if the buttocks doesn't come all the way to the heels. And then just aligning your prop if you're using your prop. Letting the torso land down onto your support and turning onto one cheek. Just letting the arms land somewhere either side of your support, or they can extend in front of you if you're not using a support. Or you can stack hands on top of each other and rest or forehead down. Taking a nice big breath in here. And a nice big breath out. And if you are turned over onto one cheek, you're welcome to stay there. Or you are welcome to take this opportunity to lift the head and turn over to the other cheek. Resetting back into stillness. Taking just another 5 cycles of breath here. Maybe they're the deepest 5 breaths you've taken today. And then when you have taken those 5 breaths, softly start to lift the head back up, the torso back up, lifting up enough so that you can move away from your support, bring the knees back together. And just take a few breaths here in the center. And if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. If you are ready to transition to the next shape, I'm just grabbing your bolster or your cushions if you haven't already, and coming to a seated position with the bolster on your right side. And then come into a shape called deer pose. So you can either have the knees stacked on top of each other, or you can bring the legs into deer shape to create more space through the hips and the legs. So if you're coming into deer, just taking hold of your left leg and swinging that leg behind you so that your right shin is parallel to the space in front of you and your left shin is parallel to the space on your side. So that is setting your legs up in deer. If you like, if that's too much for you, you can just bring the knees together and either stack the knees together or just have one knee behind the other. Take a breath or two here. And then when you feel ready, turn towards your support. Lengthen through the torso first. And then let yourself come down onto your support and turn onto one cheek. So that might look like turning onto the cheek as the same direction as the knees. Or you might turn your head the opposite direction, as long as that feels okay for your head and your neck. And then softening the eyes down when you found your shape. Again, taking a few breaths, a few deep breaths, to allow your body to land into this shape, into this space. Let's take another 10 cycles of breath here. Let your body drop a layer deeper for these final few breaths. Taking a final breath or two. And then when you're ready, softly peeling the body up and away from your support, turning the torso back to center. And then just taking a hold of that back leg to bring that leg back around. And just finding a seated position for a few breaths. You might like to rest in stillness here, or it might feel nice to take a little movement and move the energy back through the body. So completely up to you. And you can stay in this space for as long as you like. And whenever you feel ready, we're going to move over to the other side. So depending on how you're set up in your space, you might just turn directly over to the other side, keeping your support where it is. Or you might grab your support and take it over to the left side. And then just resetting for the other side, coming to a seated position with your support to the left. Taking hold of the left leg, bringing it behind, or option to just stack the knees. Taking a moment to let your body land there through the lower half of your body. And then turning to face your support, finding that length first. And then letting yourself land down onto your support. Again, head can turn the same direction as the knees. Or you can lift the head and turn the head to the opposite direction. As long as that feels okay for your head. And then whenever and wherever you land, softening the eyes down. And surrendering into this second side. And just in these first few moments, noticing how this side feels compared to the first side. Notice how your body and your breath feel in this shape. And then just let it all go. Let it all be. Staying here for another 8 to 10 cycles of breath. Let your body surrender into the space even more for this last little bit. Taking your final breath in and out. And then slowly making your way out of deer pose on this side. And then making your way into Shavasana to finish your practice. So moving any props out of your way, or using any props in any way that you would like to support the body. And if you have your blanket, it might be nice to place the blanket over your body, taking any wriggles, adjustments, movements, and then finding stillness and silence once more for your practice today. Let it all land. Let it all be. Resting here for as long as you feel called to rest. And whenever you feel ready to come out, softly make your way out and back into your day.